It's winter, it's January, and I know that most people may not be thinking about their gardens or what they're going to do as far as yard work entails this coming spring. But if you're like me, you're already planning, and if you do a lot of native plants, you're probably, you know, my cat is right here, Arabelle. So she doesn't like it when I move, but she wants to sit in my lap. You're probably already considering what you're going to add, what's coming back, what's not coming back. You know your perennials, and this is kind of a respite from a lot of the work that's going to come in a couple months. I'm in North Alabama, and we're where a couple ecosystems converge. So I love you too. And my cats are just, they're spoiled, pampered house cats, and they don't know how lucky they are. Yes, because you're exclusively indoors. You never get dirty. She never feels cold. Okay, go on the bed. Okay. So you're probably already thinking about all the work to come. You're excited, but you also know that it's going to be hard work. So I put together just a real fast, quick list of books that I've collected over the last couple years. We moved up here to the mountain, small mountain, North Alabama again. We moved here about 3 years ago, and this will be our fourth summer. So we moved in, I think, very early spring to Nakalula Mountain, hence my moniker for this channel. And I've collected just a bunch of books, gardening books, as well as just natural literature, plant books. Before, I would always check out books in the library, but we don't really have quite the integrated library system that we had living in the greater Birmingham area. So I've just gathered some books that you may be interested in, especially if you're right here in the tri-state area. A lot of these are going to be very specified for this region, this growing zone and region. First of all, I just like the Farmer's Almanac. This is from last year. I need to get another one from this year. I just find these useful. Just a bunch of just age-old facts. They have folklore. Of course, a lot of it's going to be folklore, right? And it's laid out like this. It tells you the moon and the, you know, all the dates and everything. So I like the charts. Of course, there's also a glossary in here regarding the terms. These are just really good to have, and I know that everyone my age and older, I'm 46, everyone my age and older, we're probably very familiar with this, especially if we live in more in a rural area. So here you go, Planting by the Moon's Phase. This is very this is significant to me. I kind of try to go along with this, and I know it doesn't always work out with if you have a busy work schedule or if you travel, but this is pretty good information. I just feel like it's relevant. So yeah, Farmer's Almanac. First one. Secondly, I'm actually going to pull some books that I got at the library. These are, I had a book, Gardening with Moss, but I think I may have forgotten it. Sorry about that if I did. Yeah, I did. But if you're gardening with moss, there's lots of books on that. And again, I also recommend Kimmerer. She wrote Braiding Sweetgrass. I recommend her writings. Sorry, getting tongue-tied here. And I'm trying to remember the name of her moss book, but it's more of a essay type book. If you're into very specified like growing zone area plants and native plants, this is one that is for Tennessee. Of course, Tennessee is just like an hour north of us. So I got this one from the Birmingham Botanical Gardens when they had a sale. So these are old library books that they actually sold. Oh, I did get the one with moss gardening. Good. Sorry, I forgot the one with Zen gardening. I also had one with Zen gardening. But check your botanical library. Usually it's with your library system. They'll have either a botanical section and reference, or if you have botanical gardens, they should have a botanical library. I know that Birmingham has like a really good one. But these are 2 books. I have more books that I got there too. I got moss gardening there, and I'm glad I remembered to bring this one in here. I'm trying to do this by a really well lit window, but it's just a lot of facts about, and again, you know, you probably don't want to be transplanting a lot of moss, but just more like fostering what's there or what has the ability to be in your yard. And I know that moss carpets are coming in right now, so this is an older book, and I'm just basically showing this, including lichens, liverworts, and other miniatures. So I'm just showing this because this is an example of a book you can actually purchase or find something like it at a library sale. And you can tell it was, they took the sticker off. It was a library book. It was taken out of the system. I forget the word, but I worked in libraries for like 10 years. So I used to take these old books out of the system, and they call it discarding, like it's a discarded book. So they sell it. Oh, there you go. So yeah, and it's just a really good way to recycle books, to find some interesting books that you're not necessarily going to find at Barnes and Noble and may not know to look for online. So again, I included this one because I think my yard's too sunny for moss, but I included this one because you may be into it, especially if you have like a shaded area. This may be, or something like this, may be a really good reference for you. Okay, Tennessee Gardener's Guide, the Tennessee Gardener's Guide. And I like this one because it's more like a dictionary. And again, Tennessee is just an hour above us. And a lot of the plants that grow, of course, up there will grow down here. Maybe not toward the tip of the Smokies, but the ones around Raccoon Mountain, you know, the mountain outside of Chattanooga. If y'all have been around that bend, you know what I'm talking about. 59 Interstate 59 North. So I-59. And it just, I mean, it has probably some non-native plants as well that would naturalize, and they actually do. It's a lot of this stuff is not native because it is an older gardening book, but you know, a lot of it in here naturalizes. It does have Tennessee water bog plants, or water and bog plants, excuse me, water and bog. So this is just a really neat roses, tea roses. It's just laid out really neat. And that's just another example of sort of a dictionary, like a gardener's dictionary. You could find a list of plants you could find at a botanicals garden. They always have stuff like this on sale. So those are 2 of the books that I got. I got a stack of them, and the others are out there somewhere. But I have shown this one before, and I actually did just a review of this one, just flipping through it. Moon Gardening. It's the most beautiful book. It's one of the prettiest books that I've seen in a while. I'll just flip through it just for a minute. It does have various plants. A lot of these are white because it is moon gardening. It's for nighttime pollinators. So it does have various plants, and they are night blooming or for night pollinators. But the artwork in here is just really pretty. It's a beautiful book. It's a beautiful book. And it's a how-to book. You know, it's how to select different plants, patio, you know, moon gardening, to actually gardening, like making I don't know, even pots like on a screened-in back porch, whatever it is you're doing, designing your moon garden. This is just a real fun. It's the layouts, it's the plants to put in there. It's even inside moon gardening if you live somewhere like, I don't know, say in New York or a big city, and you don't have access to nature and you're not wealthy enough to have one of those rooftop gardens. So this just has a little bit of something for everybody. it's just a pretty book. If you're the type of person like me that leaves a stack of books on her nightstand or all over, then it's just a pretty book, and it's got really good information in it too. So it's a double win for me. I love the concept of moon gardening. Now this is going to be another species or genus or whatever. I'm not up on the science. I'm an English major, okay? So this is another guide just about native plants. If you wanted to garden with native plants, ferns of Alabama. This was actually being sold for like $5 by the University of Alabama's bookstore. I think it was in 2017. And I did buy it for a little bit more though. I paid $20 for it. It's a lot. It's a pretty expensive book normally. Yeah, it's a $40 book normally. But I went to the Fern Society's Fern Show and just bought it from them because, I was trying to support the Fern Society of the Birmingham Botanical Gardens, which is a really good society. They also have an orchid society, and I took an orchid growing class when we lived around Birmingham there, and it was fantastic. Loved it. I just really liked the fern people though, because the fern people were just really funny, they're precious. So if you're in the Birmingham area, go check out the Fern Society. Just they're fantastic people. I adore them. So and I haven't kept in contact with any of them since the pandemic. Isn't that sad? But again, I don't live in Birmingham. I live on a mountain. So I'm trying to show a fern that I know. There's several ferns that I find in the forest out here, and we have the park, Nakalula Falls Park, and I'm trying to find one that is specific to this area. It's just all over the state. Southern wood fern. So it's got things from South Alabama and here, and up around Bankhead, which is the other side of North Alabama. I'm on the Tennessee side. But maidenhair fern, and this is around this corner of the state, and something just fell out of that book. So yeah, but I like it because it is laid out like this information page, and then you got a picture, so you know what it is. But it's so pretty. Our neighbor across the street he's the coordinator or the manager of all landscaping at the Nakalula Falls Park, and he has the same book. He got the same book because he's done some work, I think, with the botanical gardens, or he's done classes there or something. But so there is a lot of communication that goes on, I guess, between the botanical gardens and the parks all over the states. Now, let's see. Let's stick with the native gardening. This is fantastic. I actually found this. This is on Amazon, but I actually found this at our local Books A Million. And the town that is below us that we're technically in is Gadsden. We're in the city of Gadsden city limits, even though there's no city back there. So this is just a really fantastic, I'll just show you. See, it's got like all the information, all the scientific names I'm not going to try to pronounce, and pictures, which are good that they're photographs, how high these plants grow, which is important, especially if you're doing like a tiered bed, one that goes from the shade to the sun. Very good information to have. Lots of beautiful, beautiful pictures. That's phlox. Does anyone out there have a phlox like lawn? I think that is so pretty if you do. Like the creeping phlox. I think that's really pretty. And, I like the shady ground cover areas. Like, not a lot of books have a lot of information about that. Because we do have a lot of shade here under the pine forest, and canopy in the southeast. We have a lot of shade. So, yeah, this is just a really, really, really... trying to think anything. Oh, it does have some trees in here. Yeah, it has trees, which is very helpful if you are, trees over, this is what I like. It breaks it down by like trees over 50 feet. Let's see if I can get back to that. Trees over 50 feet tall. That's helpful because if you didn't grow up around a lot of trees like me, because I grew up mostly actually in East Tennessee, so I know a lot of trees, and I can tell you how tall dogwood's gonna get and what type of oak you need, where you need to put the oak. That's kind of stuff that we just grew up with. And even though, you know, I'm 46, I'm a zennial. I never owned a pair of combat boots, so I'm not an Xer. I'm not in my 50s. But I am a zennial, not a millennial. Nope. I think I was the last little sliver of a generation that got a lot of just natural lore, and I think a lot of it's because I was born and raised like pretty much in the Southeast, and that was just something like when you were middle class, lower middle class, or just below that, if you lived out, you just naturally got that. So this is really good because it reminds me of a lot of the gardening with native plants of the South. It reminds me a lot of the information that I just kind of picked up, you know, as a kid. And I got that from older family members, grandfather, grandmother, parents, whatnot. So yeah, by Sally Wasowski. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. I apologize if I am not. And again, I think this is the revised edition, so make sure you get the revised edition because it has more plants. So not enough good things I can say about this book. It is on Amazon. I did find it at Books A Million though, and I think they have it at Barnes & Noble. So that's another good one. Let's see, do we have another? I do have another. And I did find this one at Books A Million. We had to make a run to Birmingham for a doctor's appointment, and this was just really, really fantastic. And I saw it. It's like $25. And it is on Amazon too, obviously. But it's just this region. I mean, the Southeast, it's, you know, and I just like this because even though, you know, you got like 3 growing zones and all that, it covers it. And the pictures are fantastic. Now, this is one thing I really liked about this one, vines. Okay, when I moved to Nakalula, we were seeing passion flower all over the mountain, you know, because it usually grows in conjunction with poison ivy and jewelweed. And if y'all are Southern, you know what those 3 things are if you've been out. And it's interesting because we have this lot over here, like a lot that's just kind of just been let go that we're trying to purchase. We're trying to buy there's a couple of lots. And I'm just going to basically just rewild it. I mean, it's already kind of rewilded, but y'all know what I mean. Kind of clean it up, get the privet out and stuff that's taking over the underbrush, so it can just be healthy and not quite a hazard when we're in a deep drought, because now the Southeast is getting a lot of these horrible flash droughts because of climate change and all that. And that right now, that's not safe. And if you're from East Tennessee, you know what I mean. You have to keep your underbrush down, right? Now, out back here, 160 acres behind us, owned by a couple different families. They're not interested in selling, but 160 acres. All this, if we get this, it'll be landlocked, so you're not going to be able to put a subdivision behind here. But whew, I would love to I'll just get all of that and properly take care of it. But that's a pipe dream. So this is just a beautiful, beautiful book. Oh, and it has trees in here too. It does have trees. You know, tanager. I see lots of tanagers up here. Let's see if I can. I think that's an American Beauty butterfly. Sweet shrub, Carolina sweet shrub. You know, again, these are just from all over. We don't have these butterflies down here. I don't even know what they're called, but I would like to see one. Carolina phlox. Oh, I had some prairie blazing star. Now, I call this blue mist, and I guess this may be a species of blue mist, but you can look back on some of my earlier videos, and I talk about how I saved some blue mist from the side of the road. Blue mist is one of the wildflowers that's coming back when you rewild. You take out a lot of the privet, and you just kind of keep the privet down, and you know, the kudzu. So, and I'm not one of those people, oh my God, it's an invasive species. Oh my God, I'm so not like a hipster like that. But I do understand that you have to keep the brush down just so it's not a fire hazard. That does scare me because I sat there and watched Tennessee burn into 2016 and cried because that's where I grew up, right? That part of Tennessee. So I'm all for, you know, keeping it safe. keeping it healthy. Oh, and I love goldenrods. I have a lot that grow in my meadow that come in my meadow, and I've seeded some as well. So I like the weeping goldenrod. I think it's so pretty. The color is just a beautiful color. So now I mentioned my meadow. I'm going to go ahead and show you all this one. I just recently got this one, so I'm not quite as familiar with this book. This is The New Wild Garden. Now, there's a lot of books like this. Like, everyone who thinks they're an armchair ecologist is just pooping out one of these books about how to rewild your backyard, and that's really great. I'm so glad we're doing that because I love meadows. Meadows and wetlands are so threatened right now. Meadows, also prairies, you know, different type of meadow. Prairie, more expensive. Savanna, there's a guy on YouTube that brings back savannas in Alabama. He's also on Instagram. I forget what that's called, but I think I actually follow him on this account. But this is a great source of all of them. My aunt sent me a list of these books. Of all of them, I chose this one because it does have some good information in it. So it is kind of laid out like that in sections of Mediterranean and inspirations, where it will talk about how you can make more of a courtyard or just a wild meadow, more like that. And how to incorporate. This is just pretty. Like, I think this is pretty. I just think that's pretty. And I know that after the blooms die, it can just look like a bunch of high weeds, but it's not. You'll have more flowers come up as others are dying if you can see to the different times of the year, different times of the season rather, that they do bloom. Early summer versus late summer versus early fall. And if you're in Alabama, you know that our growing season actually goes through October. So I will have the longleaf sunflower and the goldenrod out there in September, along with the blue mist. So this is, I'm trying to, yeah, it does have like courtyards and stuff. The front of our house, I just do a lawn because, you know, it's the front of the house and we are in a mountain. We just have like a rock road, like a gravel road, but it's just easier because it gets so dusty because of that gravel road, and there's not even the grass wants to grow. So I do a courtyard on the front of my house, and it kind of extends and wraps around because I try to bring the eyeballs to the courtyard and off of our grass. The land here was really kind of scraped and not taken care of. So I've been hilling the soil a lot, and that's a whole other conversation, soil management. But I like this, factors to consider before sowing perennials. It gives little advices in boxes like this. And again, I've only been through this book like maybe just once. I need to go through it again, but that's just another perusing of it for you, so you guys can see. And like I said, it's really vogue right now, and I'm so glad because I'm all about pollinators. You probably noticed I've put things on my channel about pollinators, but you do want to be careful what sort of reference book that you pick up, just because I don't know, a lot they're not all equal. They're not all equal. Now, if you're into growing vegetables, this is like really cool. So this is like really cool. Sorry, I did the fake Valley Girl voice to be sarcastic, and now I can't get it out of my head. So that's what happens when you were in high school in the 90s. You know, you just remember that voice. You know, that voice that was all over media. So this is a book on tomatoes. Obviously, I'll hold it up so you don't have to look at the top of my head. Oh my goodness, I just love the Cherokee Purple. I'm actually going to show you how it's laid out because this book is really cool. Now, I'm not growing tomatoes right now because I have dedicated my backyard, even my tomato bed, like I had a raised bed, I've dedicated all to just pollinators and wildlife. Oh my gosh. That is so fun when you do grow like a bunch of tomatoes and you get to try them, you know, and just, I like to do the little black ones, the little, what they call black cherries, black Russian cherries or something. They have them at Lowe's. So you can just find them at Lowe's. But yeah, so it's all the different types of tomatoes. Now, some of these you're going to have to order seeds because they are beloved heirlooms. How to cultivate. Again, this is, I'll show you the author's name. This is the best tomato book because Epic Tomatoes, like this book right here, really helped me when I really moved here the first year and got into tomatoes. I was into tomatoes before. Let me clarify, okay? I've gardened I've been taking care of like stuff since I was 12 on and off, right? Because, you know, we always had vegetable gardens, and I started growing herbs in pots and stuff when I was basically a teenager or preteen. So tomatoes, that was something I was very familiar with, and I've grown them for like myself. I've probably grown them all throughout my 30s into my 40s, but I haven't grown them here because, again, I've done the pollinator thing. But maybe I'll get a couple of plants, tomato plants this year. Oh, I had so many of them though, y'all. I had a whole bed of tomatoes. I had so many of them. I had the Cherokees, and my neighbors were like, "We don't need any tomatoes. We don't need any more tomatoes." But they were good. They were good, and you know, you can can them. You can make a lot of sauce. There's a lot of good lore in here about the Cherokee purples. Did you know there's a chocolate Cherokee too, and a yellow Cherokee tomato? So anyway, you can find this on Amazon. I think I actually ordered this from Amazon. I think I got this from Amazon. So, and again, you know, I like growing peppers too, like the bell peppers, and making like preserving them in vinegar, you know, for hot dogs or, you know, cheeseburgers, whatever you put, you know, your little banana peppers on. Banana peppers are so fun to grow. So and you can just grow those in pots, and I'll probably just do something like that. So I like this publisher. I like DK Books. Yes, the DK up there. The Science of Gardening. I like this because I've been doing this all my life. It's just kind of natural. It's kind of like you learn to cook, you know, and it's kind of something you do, and you don't think about the proper terminology or the science of it, but it has a lot of good information. Again, that's more on soil. And again, I've really been nursing the soil. So this book is just good, but it's a science of gardening. It's about how it grows, everything from photosynthesis, which we all know about, but it starts very basically, obviously, and goes all the way into, you know, here you go. Is gardening good for me? I don't know why that's in there, but I guess that's to encourage people to eat their own food. But yeah, I really like this book. I got this at the local Barnes and Books A Million. So, and again, it's just all this science stuff. If you know this, you may not want this as a reference, or you may be looking for a reference book like me. You're always looking to learn more and more because you just don't feel like you know enough about it. And you know, again, it has stuff in here about vegetables. It has stuff in here about you know, caring for a garden before winter, pruning everything back, which I was pretty good about this year, but I need to go get in the beds. Also, houseplants. It has like a little bitty section on houseplants, which I have obviously a lot of houseplants too, and I was going to include them in this video, but no, that's going to be a separate video because it's just way too long to do this. And these are not all the books I have. These are just the ones that I thought would be really good. Flora Americana. This is a doozy. Okay, this one, I actually got this at Ollie's. You know, that discount store, Ollie's. Gardener's Encyclopedia of Plants, Trees, and Shrubs for the American Garden. So this is like, I think, North America, I think. So yeah, and comprehensive, beautiful encyclopedia contains detailed information of thousands of plants from around the world. I guess it's what can grow here. It talks about the hardiness zones in your garden or yard, and it is the 12 hardiness zones. Apparently it is specified for North America, just so you can know what will do well and what will not. And I'll try to find a pretty page to put this on. Oh, here we go. I mean, it is really an encyclopedia. This is insane. This book is so heavy. But I was so happy when I found this. I mean, I found this at Ollie's and it was like nothing. So, and it's alphabetized. Like, obviously, I'll show you the sides. Let me find a, here's a page. Oh, you can hear the spine cracking. That's how big it is. So yeah, I really appreciate the order that these are placed in. I like the fact that, you know, oh yeah, and it does have the very front of it talks about different growing zones. This is zone 5. Look familiar? So that's actually up north. No, we're not zone 5. That's another growing zone. Anyway, so the front is going to have a lot of detailed information about your growing zones, and then it's just alphabetized. It's just a really good book. Like I've gone to this book many times just looking for like a certain species, like for example, different types. We have so many different types of like asters here in the South, and from the little blue pine asters, the black-eyed Susies, you know, they're all kind of in that same genus, family, whatever. And this is just a very helpful book. It's just a go-to for when you do, oh, it's so heavy, when you do just want an encyclopedia and you want to know about the plant's hardiness, if it will grow in your zone and whatnot. Again, Ollie's. I don't know how much this book is if you don't find it at Ollie's, but again, I got it myself. So the last one is actually a little bit literary. It's Emily Dickinson's Gardening Life, the plants and places that inspired the iconic poet. And when I was in graduate school, Emily Dickinson was one of the poets that I really actually enjoyed working with. And I know that may seem kind of cliche because everyone's like, oh, she's boring, we read her all the time, but not really. I don't think kids read her that much anymore in school. And again, I taught before the pandemic, I taught collegiate English. So I don't know what they're doing in middle school and high school. I've never taught middle school or high school. So, but this is just a really, it's just a beautiful book about Emily Dickinson's garden. Some of her poetry in there, and I'll just flip through it. So yeah, it's pretty. It's pretty. Oh, it's her sister. A museum cat. It's his sister and their cat back in the day, and a museum cat. I've never actually been to the museum. Has anyone out there been? I would love to go. I have been to the Hawthorns. We went up to New England in 2010. I went to Hawthorns house. It's just a really cute, pretty book. And I think it's basically by the seasons. So I cut this out because I just wanted to look through it again. I got this years ago, before the pandemic actually, and I was reading so many just, I don't know what you call it, nature literature, like nonfiction, braiding sweetgrass type, and this is one of the books that I got. Now there's a couple more in this series. I think Beatrix Potter. I think there's a Beatrix Potter book that's part of this theme, and so I think you may. I can't wait till they come out actually with a Virginia Woolf. I probably need to look and see if they have one. Yeah, so I would say if you're in the South, definitely check out these books. Before I go, I'll show these again. Definitely check out these two. Yes, check these out. Again, this is the Southeast Native Plant Primer, and this is Gardening with Native Plants of the South. And I think these are essential. Again, if you wanted something about ferns, I showed the fern book, and this is just beautiful. So if you're into poetry literature, tomato book, again, that was Epic Tomatoes. I think these are probably going to be the most popular ones, like of this region. You know, the ones I showed, and my new book. If you're into meadows, New Wild Garden. So I was going to say, before I finally end this video, if you have to just get 2 books or check 2 books out, try these 2 if you're doing meadow. Yeah, get these 2 together. If you're doing a sustainable yard, a meadow, look at these, okay? So anyway, I shall end, and wishing all of you guys a very, very, very peaceful and serene winter. I hope it's going beautifully this year. I know it's just a few days in, and I hope that your spring is gorgeous.